Speaking of the Annabelle Project, it's now my pleasure to bring up our next two speakers, who've given me a lot to think about. I am a proud mentor of one of them, Joshua, who has refreshed my own perspective, reminding me of why I love this industry. And also, we're very happy that Diamond Vaughn, she is also joining us. They are TAP mentees and also next generation event goers. In the next 10 minutes, their fresh eyes, observations, and ideas should inform our next steps. Okay, so I want to ask just a few questions, and the first one I believe is, what was your first impression when you came to your first convention or trade show? Let's start with Diamond.
For me, it was a mix of things. Excitement, overwhelming curiosity, overwhelming amount of business cards. I was not prepared for the amount of business cards I received that day, but I immediately fell in love with the ecosystem. What really stood out to me was the amount of opportunity that was in one room. People were approachable, open, and genuinely willing to connect with me in the sessions. I knew nothing about the industry, but the sessions were so engaging, so engaging. So I remember leaving my first event wondering how I didn't know about it sooner.
The invisible industry, and I would like to please, to keep us on track, have the countdown clock going, or else I will be up here with these two folks for at least an hour. All right, so thank you for the countdown clock. Joshua, your first event, your first trade show, what was it and what was your impression?
Thank you so much, Sam. I remember my first event vividly. It was astonishing. The sky was lit with fireworks of mesmerizing color. A jubilant crowd of event professionals scattered across the scenery. I looked to my right peripheral view, dancers walking across tight ropes, riding...
Wait, what show are you talking about?
I'm kidding.
Oh, okay, well, you only got another like 18 seconds,
right.
So...
But genuinely though,
okay.
My first event was not quite as fantastic, but just as memorable. The first event I attended was Expo by IAE in Houston, and what struck me most was not something I was expecting to be struck by. I walked into the event expecting to find logistics, but what I found instead was choreography. I didn't know the rules, so I saw things that people who had been in the events industry for 20 plus years had long stopped noticing. I didn't know what a good floor plan or vendor booth was supposed to look or feel like. I just simply felt it. And I didn't know what conversations mattered, so I let every single one matter. And there I learned one of the most underappreciated parts about being new to anything, and that is you bring a new kind of data into the room. So my first impression of the events industry was quiet. It was that this industry is very deliberate and much more consequential than many people often imagine.
Hear, hear, this industry is more consequential. You pronounce it better than I do. More consequential than we, and what I said earlier is by working with these two people, it helped me rekindle the amazing stuff that we do. So thanks to both of you. Okay, Diamond, now you're a trade show veteran, convention veteran. You've been to what, 4, 5?
Maybe 6.
Wow, okay, 6. You're an old timer. What are your main takeaways after being at 6 live events?
So after attending a few more shows, I started to shift my perspective from experiencing everything as an attendee to trying to really understand the business side of things. And I became really aware of how intentional and strategic this industry really is. But I find that the value in this industry is the long-term relationships and the community that is built around them. So I would say my main takeaway is that events in this industry don't end when people leave the room. They don't end. Yeah, you get your connection, you make your sale, you finally close that deal that's been stressing you out, but it's really the long-term connection. And I think that's really important. As someone who is from Gen Z, I think my generation really values authentic engagement. We don't want to just attend something, but we want to still feel connected to it even after we leave the room. Okay, thank you. Joshua, because you're my mentee, I can put you on the spot. You
said that these things continue after the event. It's not just the 3 days or 4 days, they continue, the relationships continue. Joshua, you met some people at Expo, and I think you've reconnected with them here X number of months later. Having met them in person and reconnecting with them now in person, what has that meant to you? I mean, I know you're looking for a job, but besides that.
Right. Before I attended my first event, I approached the events industry with the same preconceived bias that people my age have. And that is that it was just, a side business and something that companies did alongside the real work. And a few events in, meeting the professionals that you spoke about, that perspective has long shifted and just didn't shift, it completely collapsed. What I discovered instead was more like a thriving biome, a live ecosystem operating quietly underneath industries that I cared about. It was like a secret underground world that everyone on the surface benefited from, yet no one gave enough credit to. And my key takeaway from all of that is that the surface perspective of the industry beneath is often misconstrued. And what I mean by that is if you ask the average person what events are about, they'll tell you that they're about vendors, floor plans, logistics, supply chains. But when you strip the industry back to the bone, it is architected on human connection. Yeah. That magical moment that happens when hands shake, when eyes meet, and relationships that last a lifetime are built.
So I think he should copyright like every other one of his sentences. And Diamond, you're basically saying similar things. You're saying about what are, again, now that let's switch to let's go to the key thing in the next 3 minutes and 23 seconds. Diamond, starting with you, what advice would you give the organizers, the executives in this room, from your point of view? What should we do differently moving forward?
I would encourage you guys to continue creating intentional exposure to this industry, to young audiences and emerging professionals. It was professionals that took the time out to have conversations, answer questions, become a well that I can really draw from, that really turned me into someone that doesn't just attend events, but I've become invested. And that's where I think that Gen Z can be a multiplier for the industry. We become invested when we feel connected to the space. And I would say the earlier that you engage us, the more longer and stronger your return from us will become. So I think that there's real opportunity for event producers, not just to see Gen Z as your next attendees, because we are, but also as long-term investment, because we are your future employees, next industry leaders, clients. So yeah, I would say that.
And thank you. And I think on site, to go from the big picture to something a little bit more tactical, I'm a little bit jealous. I think you mentioned in one of your comments that you went to one event and you shot baskets, you shot hoops. What was that all about?
So it was at Expo. They had this activation where and I think it was hosted by, also sponsored by Amazon. So you have to go on make a shot from one of the basketball players, the people in the NBA who make shots from, so they have their specific shots. And so if you make it, you get an Amazon gift card or an Amazon box. So it's really cool to see how a lot of Gen Z and even exhibitors and attendees were also engaging in it. It was really
even cool. Like an old guy like myself.
Yes, yeah. They were in there. They were.
How much did you get? Did you get any shot? Did you make any?
No.
Okay.
Not to me.
Anybody know the Larry Bird? No, I don't go there. How about you? What advice would you give this group?
Before Sam politely cuts me off, the first of three things I would say is...
Wow.
Well, I'll just leave the stage and the next generation will take over.
The first of three things I would say is that perspective is the mother of innovation. Yeah. And what that means is we can't innovate until we see things differently. This industry, in order to produce fresh ideas, needs to acquire and procure fresh eyes. The next thing I'll say is that never forget how momentous this industry really is. I know that amidst the execution of your businesses, the purpose can get really blurred. But much beyond just producing events, you are laying the architecture that the world builds the future on. Yeah. And never forget that. And the last thing I'll say is that we should approach artificial intelligence with cautious optimism and never fear. Just as perspective is the mother of innovation, the mother of stagnancy is fear. And that is only human, because humans tend to misconstrue and misunderstand and eventually fear what they simply don't understand. So the cure to this is not avoidance, but rather it is curiosity. Artificial intelligence will never be able to replace the event business. No algorithm, no machine, no program can replace what happens when eyes meet, what happens right outside there. But it can sure help us sharpen it. So yeah.
All right, well, thank you very much.